I was originally going to do a desert track ranking. Then it'd be funny to do a desert track ranking right after a Super Mario Kart ranking, but I don't really feel like doing that. Mario Kart Double Dash is one of the best Mario Kart games. I'd say it's third behind Wii and 8, but it's a big gap, but it's still the third best. Its main flaw is that it only has 16 tracks. Those tracks are extremely consistent. Like, there aren't even any D or F tiers. It has great controls, even if they take some getting used to. This is a solid entry in the series. It also has so much charm that none of the other games have, at least not to the same degree. Not to mention the character exclusive items, which are obviously a big plus. So I'm gonna rank all the tracks in this game. And finally, tracks are ranked relative to this game. Let's begin. Yeah, there isn't really any competition. The ice physics are very annoying. This game is pretty slippery, but it still controls well. But adding ice physics just makes it kind of miserable. The ice cave doesn't really do much for me either. But all of the tracks in this game still have a lot of charm. And this track is no different, even if it is the worst. With the ice skating Shy Guys, Freezies, and the fact that most things have eyes and a nose. Or a mouth that looks like a nose. I don't think they're blowing snot at you. Some of them blow wind at you though. I'm pretty sure it affects your cart, but I'm not 100%. A side note is that I never noticed there were red Shy Guys on this track. I only ever noticed the blue ones. They are in the thumbnail, but still. Yeah, all the charm can't save it. The stage is still kind of annoying. Looks decently pretty, besides the snow section. It's just kind of white, pretty boring to look at. I guess the snow section allows for some shortcuts, but it just doesn't do it for me. This isn't a bad track, it's just pretty mediocre. I don't think I could find this many positive things about the worst track in any other game, so at least it has that. This one is very basic. Without tricking, it just feels empty. The bumps are especially hurt by the lack of tricks. They're just kind of weird in this version. I guess they mess with your handling, which makes sense to up the difficulty. I'd say this is one of the more difficult Mario circuits, besides the SNES ones. It's probably the hardest, but being the hardest Mario circuit doesn't mean too much. I also like that it has Goombas, makes sense for a Mario circuit. This also has a lot of charm though. Like, it just says Mario here, I don't know, that's kind of funny. The trees have eyes and a nose, but basically every track has that, so I won't mention it from now on. And there's a mushroom hot air balloon. Also, why do the pillars have stars instead of, you know, mushrooms? Anyway, back to the actual track. If you have mushrooms, you could take this big cut. Not only do you evade the chain shot, but you also cut a huge part of the stage. But you do need 2 mushrooms to clear it, which balances it out. One part that's kind of interesting is the bridge. Since you're locked in a direction when you jump, you need to have good alignment. Not sure how I feel about it. You just can't see the piranha plants ahead of time. But in order to get hit by them, you need a pretty bad alignment. So it's fair, I guess. I know I didn't get hit in the footage, but I think that's because I was in a mushroom. It's a fine track, but it's a little bland. Most people have this dead last, but I don't know, I've always had a soft spot for this one. Maybe because of how butchered it was in 8. The 8 version of this track is one of the 3 remakes that actively piss me off. I like the tornadoes. It makes for a great hazard. The tornado actually gets more aggressive and moves along the track over the course of the race. I also love the Sarlacc pit. I prefer Double Dash's mound area over the Oasis too. I don't know, it's just more fun. And dodging pokies is much more compelling in this game. You get a double item for risking it instead of a coin. Wow. There are also some pretty big shortcuts because it's a desert. And this 1D turn is fun because of Double Dash's controls. The wavy desert background is also nice. Overall, this is one of the best desert tracks. It isn't a very high honor, but it's something. It's still just kind of basic, and the theme is pretty Really shows the quality of this game that this is bottom 4. The main reason it's not higher is that it relies too much on the theme. It does have an alternate path, which is fun even if it's slower. Going to the engine room and shooting out of the mini cannon is fun. And taking that path doesn't make you auto lose or anything. It's weird that one path is blocked off though. Why even model it if it's inaccessible? If they just moved the stairs you're actually taking a bit, you could have had an alternate path. I don't know, just kinda odd. The remakes fixed that, but I prefer drifting around the water to going through it. However, the cruise ship theme is amazing. Makes sense too. Usually character names are given out randomly. Like, why does Wario own an entire mountain? Or why does this entire desert belong to Yoshi? But a princess owning a cruise ship is very believable. Probably super expensive though. Even when the tables aren't even secured to the floor. You're definitely paying for the name. I'll stop yapping now. The dining tables are fun hazards and the life preservers are very funny. Unlike the ones below, it has a theme and an amazing one at that, but it's a little simplistic, so I can't put it much higher. I love car tracks, but this one isn't the best. Not to say it's bad. On the contrary, it's actually incredibly solid. Obviously, the brutal shortcut that saves no time is very funny. It's so enticing and looks so easy, but it's near impossible. And the best part is that it's barely faster. If you set up at all, you're probably losing time. Which is funny because you need to set up a lot to even get a chance. One of the best shortcuts in the series. That's not the only shortcut in this track. It has a really cool pipe shortcut as well as the shortcut here. They're just fun. I like the pipe shortcut in particular. It can actually be very tricky to get there, but it's faster than the typical take a detour to get a double item box long cut. At least I think so. The huge variety of cars also help it, with the wiggler buses, mushroom cars, etc., which makes it more fun gameplay wise. And it just makes things more varied. But car tracks are at least okay no matter what. The shortcuts are the main reason it's up here. People have this in either S or F, and there isn't really any in between. Besides me, I appreciate the chaos, with the Bowser shells flying everywhere, and the bananas and sometimes shells are basically a minefield sometimes. Unlike 8 Baby Park, it's the gameplay that's chaotic instead of the visuals. The background is also fun. It's chaotic but not distracting, which is important for this type of track. I am kinda sad we never got an amusement park track. Water Park was our chance to have a similar thing, but we all know how that turned out. Anyway, I like this track a good amount, but it's still very simple, so I couldn't rank it higher. A giant cage match is obviously a really cool theme. Reminds me of this part of the Waluigi pinball twisty section, mainly visually. Look at them, they're identical, at least this section. Moving on, this is more of a stadium course, with constant jumps which are pretty fun. It has some good turns too. Its claim to fame is that the track is so big it's only 2 laps. And it's still this long. That does become a problem, but I still wouldn't consider it a boring track. Some people will argue it's unnecessarily long, which I guess is fair, but I like drifting in this game, so I don't mind. The best part is where you can take this ramp, but the interesting thing is if you get the alignment wrong, you just die. And this is a Special Cup track, so that kind of challenge is fair. The Special Cup in general was kind of weird for me to replay. I specifically remember this track kicking my ass. I guess I'm better now. For having a good theme and a fun layout, it gets to be here, even if I'd like some more visual variety. It's curvy. It does feel naked without tricks. Stadium courses in general were made for tricks. But hey, having all these jumps is still fun. I love how the controls mesh with the track design here. And it captures the dirt bike atmosphere very well. I don't know how to describe it, but the layout feels somewhat chaotic, so it fits with the kind of dirt bike atmosphere. Sorry for not having the most detailed analysis. It's a little hard to describe. Unrelated, but the signs here are pretty funny. I also like how they customize the starting sign on every track. Like here, it says Waluigi Kart. But this part has to be my favorite. You're dodging fire bars and 2D piranha plants. Not having half pipes forces you to deal with them. And for some reason, the half pipes were faster, and they gave you an item. So why actually deal with the hazards? So I'd say this section is better in this version. Also, there's a new Mandela effect. Apparently everyone has always loved this course and put it in S. I'm not the only one who never saw anyone worship this track until recently, right? It's not just people online, it's also track ranking videos. Like, a lot of them have Waluigi Stadium and S, and I never noticed before. If you also feel this way, please tell me in the comments. Yeah, the start track is this high. People usually focus on going the opposite way of the other racers. And yeah, it's funny to beat up people in last when you're in the front, but I don't really care about that. For me, it's the alternate paths. There are a lot of parts you can go a little bit slower to get a double item. This path is really interesting though. It's faster, but you risk the chain chomp attacking you and ruining your life. You also like how wide the turns are. Works with how slippery the drifting is. This is the first track after all. Everyone knows about the A-rank mansion in the background, but there's also a Luigi blip, possibly from GBA Luigi Circuit or GBA Sky Garden. And there's a warehouse here too. Also, what's with starter tracks having useless off-road like this? Like, who's gonna go, yeah, I'm using my mushroom here? As a starter track, it's absolutely god tier, but as a normal track, it's just very, very good. But a circuit is a circuit. This is another one that thrives on alternate paths. At the start, you can take a detour to get a double item box, which might not sound that great, but you'll probably be in last place by the time you get it, so you'll get a pretty good item. It isn't the most effective strategy, but it's fun. There's another split path which isn't as slow, but you still get a double item box. I wish 8 used doubles this creatively. In that game, it's just take a wider path. The time mechanic is also really cool. Trying to cut as much as possible without getting slowed down by the water is really fun. I just noticed that I say fun way too often. From now on, I'll use a different word. Back to Peach Beach. And the Cataquacks make for great obstacles. They're so brutally punishing that you're forced to respect them. When a Cataquack starts charging at you, it is terrifying, because you know what will happen if it gets you. There's also a rock that's shaped like a penis. Good track. This Rainbow Road is brutal. The turns are so sharp. Like, this turn here is one of the first turns. This track also excels in that Rainbow Road magic. There are rainbow items in the sky, and you're above Mushroom City. Better not fall, except you will, because this track is really hard. It kinda escalates weirdly though. Like, it starts with boosting on a spiral, but then goes to just normally chaining boosts. It's kinda weird, but not a big deal. The coolest thing has to be the star items that fall from the sky, which is just really unique. By the way, on this spiral, it's easier not to drift. Just turn normally. I always found it weird how Rainbow Roads handled guardrails. Like, they usually have guardrails on straightaways, but not the actually dangerous turns. I mean, that's better than having guardrails the entire time. It's just a little weird. This track is a little long, but it's still interesting. It is brutal and has that Rainbow Road charm, but it doesn't quite reach the highs of the other tracks. Also, obligatory mention of Rainbow Road with lyrics. That song gets stuck in my head more than I'd like to admit.
It's called a road, it's called a Rainbow Road, and you will know when you get there.
I used to think this was just okay, but I have been enlightened. Immediately you're given a choice. Do you avoid the dinosaur and guarantee your safety? Or risk it and get a double item from under his legs? Then there's a bridge where you need to prove your mastery of the controls. In the later games, this part is kinda easy, but here you need to use turning and drifting perfectly, which fits for a special cup track. Once you know the maneuver, it's fine, but it's brutal when you try it for the first time. Astute viewers might see that there's an alternate path here. It's faster, so it rewards you for finding it, with the caveat that's a lot harder. Then you need to dodge these water geysers. If you have a mushroom, you can take a big shortcut and get this double. Finally, say hi to Noshi. Yes, that's his name. And then the lap ends. It is an excellent track. I would have liked more dinosaurs, but this track is just pure chaos. Even more chaotic than Baby Park without sacrificing the layout. Cars are everywhere, there are so many paths, it's a blast. The controls of this game are pretty slippery. Not bad, but slippery. So to dodge the onslaught of cars, you need to have a firm grip on the controls, which makes sense for a Star Cup track. But it isn't too demanding since it isn't in the Special Cup, and it captures the city atmosphere very well. You can take multiple routes to your destination. Like, I didn't even know there was a shortcut here. I love hidden shortcuts like these. The cars are really hard to avoid sometimes. but it's fair because spinning out isn't as bad. Except for the bomb cars. Much like the Cataquacks, there's a mental element here. You're terrified of them, so that can cause you to make some mistakes and then hit them. I also never knew you could take this, or that you could go here. You can't really, but it's still cool. It's very twisty. Drifting in this game is pretty extreme, so tracks like this are even more fun than they'd usually be. I do wish this game had normal mini turbos instead of the rocking side to side type, because that kind of fucks up your lines. I don't think that should be too controversial, but it might be. This also has some funny signs and a Yoshi copter from Yoshi's Island. And this random shell. There's also a tunnel that's pretty well hidden. I love hidden shortcuts like these, and it's a shame that the tunnel never returned in any of the remakes. I feel like it should have had more Yoshi references though. I came up with this really crazy idea a while ago. What if it was shaped like Yoshi? It'd still be twisty, but I imagine that'd be basically impossible, assuming the track would still be good. But hey, food for thought. This seems to be the biggest fan favorite in this game, and I mean, I can definitely see why. Remember how I said Yoshi Circuit was fun because it's twisty? Yeah, DK Mountain takes that to a whole new level. Basically take what I said about the drifts in the Yoshi Circuit segment and amplify that by 100. But that's not all it has. It has this really janky bridge which I like. You have to respect it. And the mountain itself is also extremely jank and I love it. It's so unique because it's just so weird. And usually being janky and weird is a bad thing, but it uses it to its advantage so it works. This was also the first track I saw from this game. I thought this game just didn't have off-road, because besides the mud there's no off-road on this track. Maybe it wasn't just DK Mountain, because off-road is less detrimental in this game, but it still exists. At least the lower tier off-road. Anyway, back to the track. There are some baby volcanoes, and it would have been cool if in the 8 Deluxe version they're all grown up and you're racing on a new mountain while the original mountain is now old. But no. At least they kept them even if they're barely visible. The boulders are enjoyable, but not a super dangerous hazard. But the wackiness of this track makes it just so pleasing. This is just one of the most unique and clubbable tracks in the game and the series. All tracks are ranked relative to the game, except for double S tiers. Any track in double S tier is a double S tier in the whole series. And the first double S tier in this video series is Bowser's Castle. This is one of the best Bowser's Castles, if not the best. I'll admit, first two sections aren't double S tier worthy, but they're still very good. Dodging thwomps in these tiny corridors can be tricky. The cage section has some tricky lava bubbles, but it's not that crazy. I like how they telegraph where they pop out though, but it really picks up after the spiral. First, the fire bar. If you can squeeze by, you can snag an item. But if you don't want to risk it, you could take the outer path, which is slower, but safer. In this next section, you're making constant turns. The arrows are big and bright, so they grab your attention. However, the final section is easily the best. Once again, you're making constant turns, but there's a giant mechanical Bowser statue that spits fire at you. It's rare that the fireballs will hit you, but I still like it. Gives it a kind of dangerous atmosphere. Oh wait, I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, this shortcut. If you drift well, you can make a big cut. And I'm pretty sure you can do it shroomless too. I love these shortcuts. Back to the atmosphere. The music and dark colors make it feel very threatening. I don't usually mention music, but here it's notable. It manages to be very atmospheric and be good music. This track absolutely nails the atmosphere and the gameplay, so I don't see why it doesn't deserve double S tier. That was my list. Double Dash is a great game. People say 7 has the most consistent track selection, but I don't think so. Again, my vote for that title will always be this game. Yes, it doesn't have the highest highs, but it's the most consistently good. Super Mario Kart is also consistent, but it's consistently shit, so I don't think that counts. I am working on an 8 Deluxe ranking, but like I said in my Super Mario Kart ranking, there's so many that I'm scared it won't feel as special. That video may be outdated, but that point still stands. By the way, do you want the next video to be a Mario Kart 64 video or a remake of the Super Mario Kart video? Final note is that I wanted this to be longer, but the text to time program I used lied. I wanted it to be 20-ish minutes, so sorry about that. I still got everything I wanted to say across though. Bye!